Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the PharmaSource podcast. Very pleased to give a very warm welcome to today's guest, one of our CDMO Live sponsors in a few weeks' time, Chris Atherton, who's commercial manager of Onyx Scientific. A very warm welcome to the PharmaSource podcast, Chris.
Hello, and thank you very much.
Perhaps you could just give us a short introduction to you and to the Onyx business, and maybe a couple of words about what makes you unique for your customers.
Okay, as you said, I'm the commercial manager here at Onyx Scientific. My responsibilities really include overseeing the business development side of the company, the marketing, and obviously our client accounts. But actually, my background is in chemistry. Following my PhD in synthetic organic chemistry, I gained over 20 years experience working in process research and development here at Onyx. So I have a really good understanding of how Onyx works and what we do in this very important, valuable work we carry out. I then obviously moved about 2 or 3 years ago into the commercial arena, or the dark side, as I call it, sometimes. Moving on to Onyx, though, really, I think Onyx Scientific is a CDMO, as you said. We're the CDMO division of Ipca Laboratories. And we offer small molecule drug substance development and manufacturing services. Our MHRA licensed sites in the UK offer early phase development of candidate APIs and manufacturing for clinical phases through to commercial supply. We also have dedicated solid state and analytical chemistry teams who are able to expedite development activities at Onyx, but we're also able to provide full service outsourced projects to complement or support our customers' in-house campaigns. A little bit of history on Onyx. We were formed in 2000, so we've been around for 24 years. And really, I guess, we can reflect upon 24 years successful experience within the preclinical development space. And we've completed within that time thousands of development projects. So we've got an awful lot of experience within this area. And really, our pragmatic fit for purpose approach focused on intelligent, rapid process development with a view to future GMP campaigns. We've undergone very much organic growth over our time as a company. So within that 20 years, we've got undergone growth from an initial sort of 7 people who set the company up. We've now got over 110, 120 employees here. We've got 2 sites in Sunderland. But despite that fact, we're still a small to medium-sized company mentality. So this enables us to be flexible and reactive, really providing a comprehensive and integrated CMC chemistry offering, which we tailor to our customers' exact needs. So I guess that's Onyx. As to what makes us unique, it's really difficult to be unique in the world of CDMO. But I think there's a couple of answers to this, really. I think during our 24 years, one question we've often been asked is by our clients is how do you actually get done as much as you do? Which is a pertinent question and an observation that reflects what has been the Onyx ethos since day one. And what we do is we have experts in their fields in the analytical, solid state, operations, and quality departments supporting our chemists, who we place at the core and centre of everything we do. And this really allows our chemists to utilise their skills to the maximum and execute projects without any distractions of those essential supporting activities. And this results in increased productivity throughout all our projects. So I think that's one thing that makes us stand out, I think. And the second answer really would be how we run our solid state services as an integrated extension of chemistry and analytical, with the end goal always at the forefront of what we do. So that goal is really being about a robust understanding of the physicochemical properties and control of the critical quality attributes of the molecule, which, to enable a de-risk synthesis at scale. I think that's key. So that's our integrated approach, and it allows us to use solid form development, not only on the typical sort of salt co-crystal screens, polymorph screens, crystallization development, pre-formulation investigations, but we also use solid state to aid our chemistry teams when faced with difficult purification process intermediates. And this approach has really enabled us to complete some extremely difficult development campaigns in an accelerated manner, so keeping projects on track where a more standard approach may have become quite protracted. So I think those 2 areas really sort of make us stand out a little bit as a CDMO.
Thanks very much, Chris. A really, really good information in general on the positioning, but also those 2 areas where you're unique as a business. I particularly like the point about the chemist being at the center with the kind of surrounding experts so they can really focus on that element of what's the critical job. So that's great. Thank you. Chris, how has 2024 been for you as a business so far? I mean, it's been an amazing year. There's an extraordinary amount of disruption and change in contract manufacturing and the CDMO world this year. Acquisitions, regulatory changes. What challenges and opportunities are you seeing, and how's the year been so far for you at this point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're only at the end of the first quarter of 2024, but I think like 2023, I would be lying if I stated this. We're not, we as a business, CDMO business, not facing some significant challenges really, it's mainly around the sort of financing of early phase work. This is really in stark contrast to some of the really exciting emerging science that's being discussed globally, relating to advanced therapies and new modalities. So it's a real shame that this lack of funding is causing so many issues, I think. But obviously, a reduced flow of funding to biotechs impacts CDMOs like Onyx as companies, and as these companies concentrate on supporting established later phase studies, which is obviously feels a safer form of an investment standpoint, but it really does reduce the volume of candidates being processed into the early phases of development, which is quite a concern, not only from a business point of view, but from the overall sort of effectiveness of the market that needs to be there in terms of early stage work. But with that crowded CDMO space that we really do have, there are an awful lot of CDMOs out there. CDMOs have therefore been struggling to win sufficient work to maintain the growth within the sector. So whilst Onyx isn't immune to these pressures, we remain competitive, as our loyal customer base and successful business models has really helped us cushion us from the worst of the effects of these challenges. And so we're really looking forward to a resolution of these current issues so that we can continue to grow with our biotech and pharma colleagues over the coming years.
Thank you for that. An interesting trend and a summary when you sort of talk about some of those funding and financial challenges, and I guess that the contrast with some of the exciting work, the innovation that's happening in the industry. So it's certainly a very interesting time. So
it's a difficult time. What I would say, though, is we've been to a number of conferences recently. We've been talking to a lot of biotechs and a lot of the sort of financial end of people as well. And although opinions are very mixed on this and things are still very uncertain, I think there is a general feeling that things are going in the right direction. There's early sort of signs of a more positive outlook. So it may take time, and I think it's going to be slow, but hopefully the funding situation will resolve itself over the next sort of year or so, and things can be a bit more positive moving forwards.
As a business at Onyx, what are the main products and services that you're investing in for the future?
Okay, so for investment, I think as I mentioned earlier, we've undergone a significant period of growth since 2018. This has really allowed us to invest in a new facility in Sunderland, which is 5 minutes from our original site. And this has therefore allowed us to invest significantly in our non-GMP scale-up and GMP services. So we've been able to increase capacity in both areas. I think looking to the future, we were one of the first chemistry CDMOs to invest in solid state, and this is a strong part of our business, and we can plan to continue investing in this area with building of new laboratories and the acquisition of additional state-of-the-art equipment planned for the very near future. So I think that's where our main growth will be in terms of investment over the next couple of years.
Congratulations on the second facility in Sunderland. That's obviously an important step. Talking about capacity, what capacity does the business have currently? What does that look like? Any plans to increase that capacity further?
Yeah, so I mean, with that second facility, with the recent growth, we've actually worked really hard to ensure that we can be as responsive as possible to our clients' needs. So at our original site, which we've now turned into our development site, we've a dedicated team of chemists available for custom synthesis projects. These include sort of reference samples of impurities and APIs, metabolites, labeled compounds, building blocks. We've also got 3 laboratories assigned to process research and development, with multiple teams working on projects for early phase development, and also covering the extensive development requirements for later phase and commercial synthesis that we also complete here at Onyx. So these teams, along with our analytical development and solid state teams, they can normally initiate a new project within about a month of the contract being signed. So they can be really quite flexible and responsive from that point of view. With our new site opening up, as I say, we worked hard to increase capacity by opening that new site. We've got 3 functioning laboratories in the non-GMP scale-up side of things. Each one of those laboratories hold up to 4 50-litre scale-up vessels for non-GMP production. And actually, when we built that site, we had future in mind. So potential for future expansion. We've actually also built a 4th laboratory, which is ready to go when the need arises. So we've already got scope there for further expansion. And again, we can be really responsive in non-GMP production, usually initiating projects within 1 to 2 months of signing off the contracts. So really quite responsive there. In terms of clinical production, we've got 6 MHRA accredited laboratories for GMP manufacture. And each laboratory has been designed to be adaptable and, as a minimum, can hold 2 50-litre vessels alongside other dedicated specialist equipment specific to the manufacturing process. And again, with that future potential expansion in mind, we have space within our GMP facility for another 4 laboratories. And we are constantly monitoring capacity, especially with reference to our commercial API production activities. And we're constantly monitoring to ensure our early and late phase work can continue alongside our commercial production. And I think really we're booking GMP projects now from sort of September, October this year. So again, not too longer sort of pipeline in terms of GMP.
Shifting focus a little to customers, which is an obvious link. Which are the ideal customers for you as a business to work with, Chris? Is it a particular phase of development or manufacturing? Is it based on location, specialism? What does that ideal customer target look like?
As I mentioned earlier, we've got 24 years experience working in this area, and we really like to be able to add value to our customers' projects. And I think really the bulk of our work is around that phase 1 CMC offering. So really anything from development, or everything, including development, all the way through to your first GMP manufacture. And I think really our ideal customers within that area, small to medium biotech pharma companies, we find really the cultures tend to align well with what we do, and they really benefit from our consultative approach and our flexibility and responsiveness. So I think they are our ideal sort of core customers, if you like.
And then also shifting focus again to talk a little bit about sustainability. The industry is very focused on reducing or focusing on sustainability, reducing scope 3 emissions. How are you as a business supporting this drive to sustainability? What are your plans around customers, carbon footprints, etc.?
I think sustainability is obviously something that we all care deeply about. We all recognise that it is becoming an increasingly important consideration in the pharma industry, and quite rightly so. It does, however, present several challenges for drug manufacturers, and the complexity of these challenges I don't think can be underestimated, really. I think really these challenges, they include things like the cost and time associated with sourcing sustainable raw materials and trying to achieve supply chain transparency with a global supply chain. It's very difficult. And then there are things like balancing economic considerations with sustainability goals when reducing waste and finding sustainable disposal methods, the costly nature of reducing energy consumption, and meeting regulatory requirements within this field with sustainability criteria, which can be really time consuming. So those are so many of the issues. And finally, really navigating potentially extended timelines, I think, to market with trying to introduce those sustainable practices into development. We're trying to do that when trying to incorporate sustainable practices into the manufacturing. It's again a tricky area. Unfortunately, really, I think we've all got to recognise that solutions to these challenges all come essentially with an associated cost. And this creates an additional challenges of applying solutions whilst trying to maintain, as a business, acceptable costs to our customers. So it's a really difficult balance to achieve, I think. So at Onyx, I think we realised there are a few visually sort of high impact solutions towards sustainability goals. For example, using solar panels or wind energy for our energy requirements. These projects are high cost, and whilst I think we will at some point in the near future implement this type of activity, we do have to balance these costs with the needs of the businesses and also economically as well. So these are things we need to carefully consider as to when we push the button on those things. But I think the other thing we really do recognise is the importance of considering small steps and implementing these across the business. So by doing this, we can identify and develop a range of strategic targets that promise an immediate and lasting impact on the company's carbon footprint. So what we've done at Onyx actively over the last year or two is we've created short and long-term sustainability initiatives that are achievable and continuous. And these include things like incorporating green chemistry practices into our process development and optimization. So obviously maximizing yields, that's a fairly obvious one. But really trying to use readily available and sustainable materials if we possibly can. It's not always easy, I have to say, but if we possibly can. Lowering energy consumption across our two sites by various schemes. For instance, we've implemented smart sensors for lighting control, and we also enforce a switch off IT equipment that's not required overnight or non-operational hours. We've put in plans and into action reducing water consumption by implementing dry condenser technology whenever possible. And coming back to that supply chain issue, we're trying to minimize our environmental impact by focusing on the supply chain and consolidating raw material deliveries in an attempt to minimize the carbon footprint. And in addition to this, our industry has historically been a very paper-heavy industry, but a lot of the approaches we're using now are trying to move towards a paperless approach wherever we can. And not only that, but engaging in local environmental initiatives such as we have litter picking campaigns and creating recycle points around the company, all in an aid to aid our environmental efforts. But I think so we've put in these sustainability initiatives here at Onyx, but I think really to create a sustainable industry, it is possible. But to achieve this, CDMOs, biotechs, pharma, we all need to work together to create solutions that are themselves sustainable and don't put too much pressure on only one area of the sort of the partnerships essentially. So we can only achieve this as a partnership together, I think.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And obviously a lot of focus within your business. Chris, final question, a good summary perhaps. What advice would you give to biotechs or pharma companies when partnering with a CDMO? Sometimes what are the problems you see? What are the opportunities? But what overall advice would you give entering those type of partnerships?
I think obviously my main advice is to choose Onyx. I think that's obviously got to be there. But no, seriously, I think obviously selecting the right contract service provider is a crucial step in the overall success of a GMP API manufacturing product and partnership. And I think really a compatible cultural fit between the company and the CDMO is the CDMO of choice is vital. I think one expectation that biotechs and pharma should have is the job of the CDMO to add value from the outset. So that's at the request for quotation stage. So this is before even any work starts. CDMOs need to really proactively get to know the project requirements. And during these discussions, the CDMO should take a consultative role, suggesting alternative strategies and using their knowledge to add value to the process. I think that's absolutely key. So I think the crucial questions biotechs and pharma should be asking is obviously, does the CDMO's core capabilities lie within the chosen area? I mean, that's a given. But things like, will the CDMO give you access to the whole team, including direct access to the chemists who understand your molecule? Are they willing to give you references and other things like how well integrated and experienced are the CDMA solid state group? Does the CDMO take a phase-appropriate approach to API development and manufacturing? And do they have a dedicated team to develop and validate analytical methods during API development, as well as being able to handle the GMP release? But I think the other side of that is, how does the CDMO deal with failure and handle problems? I think that's key to understand as well very early on in the relationship. And I think, we have actually asked our customers a similar question in the past, and I think, what was important to them. And of course, resource and capacity were both critical within those conversations. But flexibility and quality came out on top. But also 2/3 of our customers highlighted the importance of setting expectations early in any partner relationship as key to a project success.
Thanks, Chris. Great summary. Key themes, I guess, there: compatibility, the cultural fit, the problem solving. There's some really important points in there. So thank you very much for that. Onyx are one of our sponsors at CDMO Live on the 13th of June. So you'll certainly be able to hear more from Chris. Chris, it's been great. Thanks ever so much.
Join us at CDMO Live on June the 13th. All you need to do to register is head to pharmasource.global/CDMO Live. We look forward to seeing you there.